Some other news items now. A Corpus Christi police officer sent to the hospital after being dragged by a suspect accused of stealing a police unit early this morning. It happened just before 5 a.m. near the intersection of Agnes and South Brownlee. Police say the officer stopped to help a stranded motorist when the suspect walked over from a nearby convenience store and jumped into the police cruiser. The officer got back to the car to try to turn it off, but the suspect drove off, dragging the officer a short distance. The suspect crashed into a light pole just a few blocks away at Agnes and Alameda and then ran off.
So the officer was transported to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries as a precaution, just to make sure that he's okay. From what I understand, there were minor injuries.
Police have described the suspect as a Hispanic man with short hair wearing a white shirt and blue jeans. Once arrested, that suspect is facing multiple charges, including aggravated assault on a police officer. Anyone with information is being asked to call CCPD at 361-886-2600.